Before we start the show, a human message. I think you'll get the idea. Thanks to Art Helper for supporting this show and keeping us here. And I say that as a human, which apparently now needs saying even more. Art Helper, you see, is a professional networking community for human artists with a real-time feed of work and discussion and news and a global directory of human-made art. Made by humans for humans, featuring humans. I think you get the idea. It's free to join at arthelper.com/sign up. arthelper.com/sign up. Right. Let's make a picture at the start of this week's show to show you where I'm walking today. I'm going to call this my Where's Wally picture because Barney's running in and out of of a tree here. Here we go. F5, 125th of a second. Oh, let me turn up the volume. Turn up the volume. What do you mean by that? Well, when I was in India, I turned the volume of my shutter down, which I always have quite loud when I'm recording the show, because obviously I want you to be able to hear what I'm doing. But here we go. But in India, I didn't want really people to be listening to be going click, click, click really loudly. So, and it's also on this sort of motor wind. Don't need that, just a single still image. Right, we're all set up. Couldn't you have done this before we started the walk? Possibly. Come on, Barney. Right on cue, through the gap. Ha! A Where's Wally picture to start the show. So, I've been promising a mailbag week for, 2 months? Possibly 3, Neil. You're right, possibly 3. To be fair, we've had a few specials due to the ever so slight fact that I've spent 4 weeks away from the studio. Austria took me to Bangladesh, and then on to wonderful India. And nearly 2 weeks back now, I'm still in some respects coming down off the amazing, incredible time that I've enjoyed with some excellent photographers I've met and worked with along the way. But I've missed you. And even though I recorded some of the introductions whilst I was away, the actual shows were recorded before travelling. So I might be just a tad rusty in doing this. Bear with me. At this point, my boys would say something along the lines of, "We don't need all the details, Dad. Move on." Actually, on the day of recording this, our eldest, Jack, turns 18. 18! I did a reflections piece about it on the other podcast. So, it's there. But I'm immeasurably proud of I was going to say of the boy. Of the boy? No, of the man that he is becoming. It's, as I say, a work in progress, this adulthood lark, isn't it? A work in progress. But happy birthday, Jack. I know this is one day after the event now, if you're listening to this on the day of release, but happy birthday. Did we have a good time eating at the restaurant last night? I'm sure we did. I'm absolutely sure we did. Anyway, this show, this Photowalk, is made by you. I always say that. We're going this way, pups. I know you want to go that way, but you haven't earned your bacon butter yet. He's looking at the cafe thinking, don't we go that way? Not yet. We've only just started. No. So yes, this show is made by just me, just you, the mailbag, the wind in the trees. It will be a bit windy today. We've had a really windy 24 hours or so, and I'm up on the airbase, Greenham Common, near where I live, and it's always a bit brisk here. But I'll make some photos as I walk. Oh, look at those clouds. Beautiful. Hey? That's proper as my friend Giles is now calling it, cucumber nimbus. Cucumber nimbus? Look at that. That's perfect cucumber nimbus. I'll get a photo of that in a moment. Yes, so just you, just me, the mailbag, the wind in the trees, Some contemplative music to accompany us along the path between those letters. Plus, the return of Valerie Jardin, our street photography mentor, whose Teach Me Street is back, and some stories of her own travels in Mexico. We'll be having a chat about that. We've all been on our travels, it would seem. The title of today's show is a bit of a proclamation, really, isn't it? Or a promise, perhaps. And it's all tied into the very last letter on the show. So don't go fast forwarding, as Billy Joel almost once sang. Obviously, there's going to be some pictures on the show page today to go with this episode, number 525. But I'm going straight into letters, actually. I'm starting with almost the latest message that I had in, which isn't a picture one, more of a welcome home from our Martyn with a Y, Martyn Cox. Not sure if this will get through to you as you're in the last few days of your time in India, or maybe as you get home. But welcome home, as you would say. Cue the song. You don't mean Welcome Home by Martyn. That's as old as Mozart if you're referring to Cue the Song being Peters and Lee. Welcome home. Don't sing, Neil. Especially not that. Welcome. Anyway, Neil, since you've been on your travels, a QQ, as you call it, on your other podcast with that reprobate Buddy Mullins. But do you think your travel makes you a better photographer? Or does being a photographer make you a better traveller? Do you really think you need to go somewhere extraordinary to make extraordinary pictures? And if so, does Canvey Island count? Right, first up, Canvey Island, for those who've never heard of the place, Canvey Island absolutely counts. It's exotic, isn't it? But it's always blooming cold, even in a heat wave, so pack your jacket. Canvey Island, I can't remember the last time I went to Canvey Island. Sort of place I'm sure I would have gone with Mum and Dad. Come on, we're going to Canvey Island. Canvey Island? Cool. But as to your question, well, I noted down some thoughts so I could think clearly about this, so I can make sense of what you asked and unpick the question properly, I think. The camera, I believe, is an excuse to stand still and just stare without anybody thinking you've lost the plot. My wife, Sam, at some stage called it, "You are just professionally nosy." And I did consider having that on a business card. Neil James, professionally nosy. But what I think it does teach you over time is the difference between looking and actually seeing. Now, you know I've purloined that from one of my unwitting mentors, the lovely, wonderful late Steve Shipman, who learned it from his mentor many decades ago. But it's true, though, isn't it? It's certainly true. Most of us spend a remarkable amount of our lives looking while being convinced we're seeing. It's that old listening and hearing thing as well, isn't it? Oh, God, the amount of times I was told that in class. So, now, of course, you don't have to go to Bangladesh for this, or even Canvey Island in Essex land, though I would recommend, if your constitution is up to the wondrous array of smells, to go there. And I'm talking about Canvey Island now, not Bangladesh. Come, pups, this way. I shall drop the C-bomb now. Daphne, put your hands over the kids' ears. Neil's going to drop the C-bomb. Worry not. But here it comes. Martyn, with a Y. You only need, here it comes, curiosity. This willingness to point your camera at something just because you've got a bit of curiosity and genuine intention as well. And intention is something we talked a lot about, actually, in India on the photography workshop. I see projects where people have made pictures in their own towns that have completely surprised me, not because the town is remarkable, but because they've approached it like it might be. I find that really hard. If somebody said to me, go make a feature of Thatcham, it probably would horrify me to start with, because it's neither exotic or unfamiliar. And I think I need to get over that bit. Anyway, the photographers I most admire aren't the ones with the most air miles necessarily, although it's really interesting work to see. It is photographic candy shop material, isn't it? But no, the photographers I greatly admire are the ones who learn to be genuinely curious about whatever is in front of them, wherever they are. That includes Thatcham on a Friday night with Gassan's kebab van, I'm sure. You don't even have to have your jabs. Canvey Island, on the other hand, ... In India, and the Indian specialist to come in the next few weeks, I recorded so much material, it may well take a little while to collate it all together. I was hoping really it would be next week, but it may be the week after. But in India, I answered a few questions about whether the Photowalk is actually recorded on a Photowalk. I thought we'd covered this ground. Clearly we haven't. So let me say this. The wind is blowing in my face. If I hold the microphone out to the wind, I'm not sure. Actually, the wind has just dropped. You should have just heard. It's there's always a brisk wind on the airbase where I walk. I look on with a great deal of envy at YouTubers like Black Crag. I was talking to Mally of the Trees the other day about Black Crag, and I look at some of the places he goes, and Mally, and there's a great deal of envy that I think, I wish I was in that valley or protected in that woodland. But I do like this walk up on the old airbase as it used to be. Now back to common land with cattle grazing and so on. But it does, I tell you what, because it's such a flat land, most of it whistles through here, it really does. There's a bit of woodland to my left, but that's sopping at the moment. Honestly, Barney would be walking through it like he was up Periscope with his head sticking out the water. But yes, these parts are recorded on my walk. The microphone goes down to the floor, so you can hear the footsteps, and then up towards me, and then we read your letters. Anyway, on the subject of travel, I do try to keep up with all the comments that you make following the shows, be that on social media, the mails that you send in, the WhatsApps that I'm now getting, like Martyn's actually. They seem to be growing, and the website itself where you can leave feedback following the shows. Now, I am in the midst, as I said, making the India special, which is a bit of a beast. There were 80 to 90 recordings that I made. That's just that's everything. That's the speech bits and the sounds from the Ghats in Varanasi, etc. But we did air the Bangladesh special last Friday, where I photograph alongside my travel buddy, Lynn Fraser, and GMB Akash in Dhaka. Akash is a complete legend for his very beautifully empathic and documentary work, particularly in his home city of Dhaka. And it was an absolute pleasure, privilege to learn from GMB Akash about his country, about photography, about street photography, about Dhaka. It really was. I loved it. And watch this space. It may well be a place that I suggest you and I travel back to together. Hey, hint, hint, ding! But on the show last week, in the Bangladesh special, there were a few moments where the work conditions, the labour conditions were mentioned, particularly when we visited the shipyard within the show. And of course, the spiky subject, quite rightly, of child labour came up. And I wondered if it might attract some thoughts, which it certainly did. One in particular from Paul Morgan, who said, very interesting listen that raised a huge number of moral issues for those of us in the supposedly developed world. Over a third of the world, writes Paul, doesn't have organised waste collection and subsequently sanitary disposal of that waste. In a lot of developing countries, workers on unregulated dump sites are poorly paid, earning a living from the recycling that they do. They don't have protective equipment, in some cases not even shoes, and we talked about that, and they often utilise child labour, plus are exposed to life-threatening toxins every day. Our instinct should be to wade in and immediately modernise systems and services, but there are significant unintended consequences that, if you do that, as you mentioned, the informal economy underpinning those societies, albeit at the cost of healths and lives, are greatly affected. The big shipping corporations buy their ships from or send them to be scrapped in places like Bangladesh, so that they can save money at the expense of fellow humans. They abdicate their moral responsibilities in the name of maximising margins. If some of those ships were built or scrapped in the UK, for example, adopting our environmental and health and safety standards, the ships, we'd be told, would simply be unaffordable. Something has gone very wrong. Great episode, Neil. Thank you. And thank you, Paul, for your feedback. It was a moral dilemma at times, wasn't it? And I really did, I think, well, I felt I was anyway, walking a bit of a tightrope when it came to sharing the stories that I recorded on the streets with Akash and Lynn, and those that appeared alongside some of the voices that appeared within the show itself. Not many, granted. So, I walked a tightrope with that. I didn't want it to be, and I hope it wasn't, I didn't want it to become a programme or a show where it sounded like I was walking through Bangladesh saying how lucky we are. Look at the dirt on the floor. Oh, look at those conditions. Where's the health and safety? Blah, 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 blah. So I hope it didn't do that. But I think you could probably hear the sincere surprise in my voice at various or maybe many moments of that particular show. But here's, if you haven't heard it yet, here's something just to whet your appetite to maybe go back an episode and listen to our Bangladesh special. I'm standing between two trains, one intercity, one more suburban, I think, and I'm doing something I'd never be allowed to do in the UK, and that's walk along the tracks that are in the middle. Can you imagine if I did this at Paddington Station? What a hell of a row there'd be. Now, it's very easy at this point to make this sound like I'm being judgmental, that there's no health and safety here. And if one thing I've learned about this trip, vulnerability, access, all those sort of things, it's a different world. Of course it's a different world. We're in a different place. And I don't know, Akash might have some feelings about this. Akash, I'm just talking about the fact that if I tried to do this at Paddington Station in London, walk between two trains, I'd be rugby tackled to the floor within a couple of seconds. The access that we have here is incredible. And it's always a bit of a balancing act, not to make it sound like I'm being judgmental of the fact that there's no health and safety here and complete disregard. And it's a difficult one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's difficult to say, but yeah, it's a different one. It's a different world. Yeah.
This idea of just walking onto the railway here is, you know.
Nowhere in the world will allow you to go on the track of the train, but here actually nobody control.
No. You've seen this little lad
too many population also.
Yeah.
And also,
Oh, now he's acting for Lynn. Look, this little lad's been following us from coach to coach to coach.
Yeah,
At first he was playing. I was trying to get a picture, and he was acting shy. So in the end, I thought I'll just walk off.
Yeah.
And he called after me. He was like, "Oh, my game's finished," and now he's followed us all the way along.
Yeah, he is also playing with me. He's playing hide and seek.
Yeah. A lot of the children on this platform seem to know you.
There are more than around 4 million children living on the street. They're homeless, street children. And many of them, they know me because every 2 weeks I take them to a good restaurant for have a good meal. And I'm doing it for a long time. So most of them, if they're not new, they know me.
The Bangladesh special is episode number 524, and there's a show page where I've popped up quite a few pictures that I made during my time there. And as I say, the India special is on the way. That will feature a lot more voices, virtue of the fact that, of course, it was our workshop, and we had a team of there were 8 what do we call you? Workshoppies? That sounds bizarre, doesn't it? Adventurers, travellers, me, Lynn, and Shivam, our Indian guide, stroke mentor, who joined us for the second year, and his team. It was we had a cracking time, and that special's to come. One of the things that is a sort of best kept secret, I feel a show marketing theme coming on here, is not just our little show here in terms of the photographic community. Actually, Mally was at the what's it called, the photography show? What do they call it these days? Anyway, I can't say it's one of my favourite places on earth, those shows. Anyway, but he was at the photography show doing some talks on the Nissi stand, I think. Is that right? Yes. I think it was just that stand, or maybe others as well. And he said that, and it was very kind of him, he sent me the replay of one of his talks. Bless you, Mally. Thank you for mentioning us each time. That was very charitable, very kind, and I very much appreciated it. And if I can squeeze another very in here, I will. But he did say when he was talking to people, he'd say, "Have you heard the Photowalk podcast?" And they'd all look at him like rabbits in headlights, I think. No. So we are a best kept secret. That should be a new marketing a marketing angle, perhaps. Anyway, where were we? Yes, but the show page, yes, back on track, Neil. 321, back in the room. The show page that's produced every week on the photowalk.show website is a bit of a best kept secret too. And I'm about to mention some must-visit websites, which I will link to on the show page on the website today. So, if you are listening in the podcast player app, I don't know, Apple, etc., other ones are available. I know they are, yes. In the notes for this episode, within your app, you will find a link to the show page. The tab, by the way, on the website called Episodes is worth hitting up to, because you'll see 524 other episodes with links. I think we should probably call the tab not Episodes but Rabbit Holes, because what I'm hoping is that there will be some, you'll spend wondrous hours to follow the links and get lost in the fantastic creative world that we inhabit through the links that we put on these pages, and also the videos in the video library at the foot of each episode page too. So to go with those thoughts, here is a letter from Andreas Noeh in Germany land. Dear Neil, last year when visiting New York City, I came across the book Loft Law from Joshua Charrow. I bought it online later, and I found the pictures and the stories, mostly about elderly artists living in the city's lofts for decades, just amazing. The author is not just a photographer and a great storyteller, but he's also a videographer who produced some wonderful work. For example, a short film about the World Trade Center Memorial Pool Cleaner. His second book about artists living in NYC lofts has been published, so maybe he would be even more willing now to talk to you about his work since it's just come out, and especially this fascinating long-term project. I'd love to learn more about him and his work by listening to a conversation with you. Maybe you could give it a try. And after that, Andreas has left me with some more links for stuff, including Joshua's YouTube channel, which I will put on the show page, of course. Best regards from Germany and your new extra miler, Andreas. So, Andreas, thank you for these links. This photographer, this storyteller, this short filmmaker, he is amazing, isn't he? His work and his focus on other artists just deserves the word inspiring in capital letters. I didn't know about Joshua Charrow before your letter arrived, and I'm very glad you pointed me in his direction, because it is remarkable stuff that he's made. It's particularly mature given that he was born in 1998, which I'm just mentioning, whilst those of us of a certain age process that year, because his work that you see online is just beautifully mature. And I know that sounds like I'm somehow patronising him, and I don't mean it to sound like that, but it is. So he makes these really lovely photo stories about those who live and work in the lofts as artists in New York. I'd always fancy myself, if I lived in New York, I'd always fancy myself as one of those artistes living in New York in a loft, surrounded by my paint, as much of it on the floor as on the actual canvases. So that's interesting in itself, and these are manufacturing lofts in neighbourhoods like Soho and Tribeca. Is it Tribeca? Tribeca, yes, and the Bowery. Spaces that the city, they stopped using, didn't they? When the manufacturing all moved out, and the artists moved in, and they've had some sort of protection. There was a law in 1982, I looked this up, there was a law that gave them some protection and also rent stabilisation, which, let's face it, I know artists need, don't they? You're right, pups, you're right. Anyway, Joshua, he went in and he's been documenting them. I would imagine there must be some sort of sense, even though they are protected, that one day they'll just simply disappear, these lofts, and the artists will have to find somewhere new when, I don't know, when the building companies move in and want to convert these wonderful places into something else or knock them down entirely. So thank you, Andreas, too, for your letter, guiding me his way. Now you've been barking a bit, pups. You're pretty good. Would you like? Is it a halfway? It's not quite halfway in the show, I think. Would you like a treat? Come on then. Don't tell Keith. Captain Keith would say you're rewarding him for barking. Well, I'm not actually, Keith, because I waited a while, didn't I? Here we go. Haven't had this for a couple of weeks. Some live chumbling. Somebody else actually who was it? I think it might have been Lloyd, who was in India with me. Wonderful chap. No, don't start taking them out the tin. That's rude. No, that's my tin. Stop it. Said he quite liked these bits, these human moments between me and dog. There we go. Don't eat too many, because we're out on the photo walk, and you know what that means. Hey? Bacon butties. That's what that means. It's a mailbag week this week. I've been promising it for a good couple of months. As I said at the start of the show, keep sending your letters in, please, and your pictures. Your thoughts about photography. It's what makes this show. To stories@photowalk.show. Stories@photowalk.show. Now, last year in Paris, listen to me, globetrotter, Bangladesh, India, Paris. Ooh. I met some remarkable new friends on Valerie Jardin's workshop, and one of those is Jon Otis from Australia land, who I spent a lovely afternoon with, actually walking and photographing through a beautiful Parisian park. That one with a boating lake that Valerie likes to take pictures at. She's made some cracking candid street pictures there, that's for sure. Anyway, this is going to dovetail this letter wonderfully, I hope, with this month's Teach Me Street feature in a moment, featuring Valerie looking at your work and talking more about working on the street with your camera, plus a story this month about fantastic Mexico, marvellous Mexico. Alliterate it, please, Neil, which is still a place that's high on my list of locations, of countries, cities as well, that I'd love to travel to. I'm highly embarrassed, as we are at episode 525, and I should have read this out in episode 499 at the very latest. But hopefully you'll forgive me, Jon, and my other listener will instantly recognise why I should be embarrassed when I read the first sentence in terms of timing of your letter. So from Jon, hey Neil, I hope you're well, mate. As your 500th show approaches, see what I mean? I just wanted to wish you all the best and to congratulate you on what is a marvellous accomplishment. It's been and gone, Jono. Is that how I should... Am I allowed to say Jono? Well, you are from Australia land. Jono would be... everybody has an O after their name. I'd be Neilo, wouldn't I? Yeah, it's been and gone, as my nan used to say. Anyway, for this next bit, I need to hide behind the sofa of flattery. I never cease, says Jon, to be impressed by the heart and soul you put into everything you produce, together with the obvious hours of thought and work, false starts, I'm sure, and breakthroughs. Jon, I'm claiming the breakthroughs, or the false starts I'm going to blame our Keith for. I blame Keith. I know that labours of love sometimes have unremarkable rates of pay. Have you been looking in my bank balance? And surely that must be a regular challenge, but I think you know your work has a far greater value. It really is a magical thing, this photography caper, with its caring community feel and being for many, myself included, a proper salve for difficult moments and thoughts. Anyway, whenever I'm in the UK, I buy a particular black and white photography magazine I love, but I can't find it in Australia, and I've never found it once in Greece. I did so again a few weeks ago before returning to Melbourne, and when I flicked through, I saw something you might like to read. Stay well, Jonathan. Yes, Jon, or Jono, as you're Aussie. Well, Aussie Greek, or are you Greek Aussie? What is he, pups? Yeah. I don't know, we'll just say Jon, shall we? I can't tell you how, yes, I flicked through through what you sent me, and I'm excited I'm going to be going there. He sent me some pictures of wonderful Mongolia. I'm so excited. We go there in September. And there's, I suppose there's still a place on that if you wanted to go. So don't be going without us, Neil. No, well, sign up then. And there's still a couple of places for Scotland while I'm about it. So come and join us in the wonderful glens and the lochs in Scotland as well. Come on, pups, this way. Come on. But thank you for your kind comments. And I think Labour of Love describes my podcast well. Well, this one very well, although I'm exceptionally and always thankful to the extra milers, as we call you, on our Patreon, for as little as a few bucks or pounds, who keep this show on the path each month. So this now then is a good time to hear Teach Me Street, as we mentioned it a moment ago, thoughts from the candid path, and some reviews of pictures that you've been sending in to stories@photowalk.show to our Valerie. Valerie, we have both been on our travels. You've been to, I'll say this slowly because I always get it wrong, despite the fact that it's one of my most favoritist restaurants in the world in London, Oaxaca. You've been to Oaxaca in Mexico, and I've been to Bangladesh and India. Look at us, travellers.
I know. I was thinking of you as you were on the other side of the world. And it's funny because I had two people who were originally from India on my Oaxaca workshop.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, because I had two people from the workshop that you held in France, in Paris,
right.
over in India.
It's a small world in the
it's like
workshop.
It's like an exchange student.
That's right, for an exchange program.
But we had a wonderful time. But I want to know about Oaxaca, and I want to. You had some sort of experience. Are you happy to share this amazing experience?
Oh, absolutely, and I can't wait to do it again next year. Yeah, every time I go to a place, I try to do different things just for me and for people who come again. And actually on this workshop, I had someone who had already done the Oaxaca workshop.
Right.
And this was a visual narrative workshop where we really focused on telling the full story, not just street photography, the story in a frame. It was more about telling the story in multiple frame. It was like the workshop was a book, and each adventure would be a full chapter with a series of photographs. So one of the things that I had wanted to do for so long was to go visit mezcal distillery, but not the one that, you see on the side of the road where, it looks like you're in the Napa Valley. And then you go and do some tasting and then they show you how it's done. No, I wanted really an original, authentic experience.
I like the sound of both, by the way. If we could do both in a day, that would be nice.
Oh, no, because I had done the previous one. I'm like, no, that is not the experience I want to give my photographers. Yes. And this time we went up in the mountains. We drove for about an hour and a half of which was on unpaved roads, up in the mountains to this little, it wasn't even a house. It was just a little, I was expecting kind of a ranch, but no, it was pretty much a pit where they do the mezcal thing among fields of mezcal plants and a distillery. No electricity, no running water. I mean, as basic, as authentic as it gets. And we spent the day there. And it was amazing. So we saw the whole process. We saw how they cut the plants, put them on to smoke, on in a big pile, and photograph the whole process with the smoke and everything. It was just phenomenal. And we spent the day with the guys, and then they cooked for us there. There were 2 or 3 women from the village that came up and did a big barbecue for us. And we drank mezcal all day. Because that's what they do. It's like, where's the water? Good thing we had water with us.
I do hope you weren't driving down the mountain.
Oh, no, and our chauffeur was very good. He sat in the hammock the whole time.
No, well, hopefully he sat in the hammock. He wasn't comatose in the hammock.
So he was trying to recover from the drive up, which was quite interesting. And so it was the most amazing. We were all on such a high after that. And it's a good thing it was towards the end of the workshop because we could not top that off. And people who were on my workshop had been to many other workshops before, and they said that just topped it all off. It was like the most amazing once-in-a-lifetime experience. So, and it's not a place that caters to tourists or to other photographers. It was a one-off thing, but they promised me that I could come again because we were so well behaved, and everybody got some fabulous pictures.
So mezcal is I might sound silly now. That's tequila, yes? Is that right?
Well, it's a tequila, but it has a smoky, very smoky flavor.
And smoking.
Because it is, for 3 days, it is, the plants are on that pit where there's, they're on a fire, basically, and they're covered. So we saw the whole process. It was just amazing to be there and see the hard work, because we got there around 10 a.m., but they had started at 5 a.m. to get everything ready for us. The stones were set, and then they were bringing all the plants and cutting them. So we saw all this, but they had to start the fire at 5 a.m. in order to do the process.
So you had, I think, 10 people on the workshop, didn't you? Thereabouts?
Mm-hmm,
I assume then they're photographing this as a story. How are you managing within a workshop to get 10 people to move? Because I've had this experience myself, to get 10 people to move around a subject without overlapping each other, as it were.
Yeah, and for this experience was quite easy because it was such a large area. I mean, there was the horse pulling that big stone to crush the plants and everything. So, some would be doing this, others would be doing something else. It was such a large area in the mountains that we could suddenly spread out. But when we are in smaller area, we also experience a beautiful place where there are women potters, the red clay potters. So they did, of course, we had a meal with them, and then they did a demo. So then we kind of take turns, we're like, okay, 3 of you spend like 5 minutes, and then we rotate. So everybody gets to shoot the way they want without being into each other's shot. And then we rotate enough time so they get shots of the entire process with close-ups on the hands and overhead shots and what have you. I got pretty good at organizing organizing that so that everybody gets a chance of getting the best shots without feeling frustrated. Because that's often, that's why I don't photograph big events. And actually, I was talking with some of the workshop participants who were there before the workshop to photograph a big festival there. And they said it was actually quite hard because there were a lot of photography groups at that event, and they're like right in people's face, so you cannot get a shot. I'm like, yeah, I don't even want it. I don't want that kind of stuff. I don't like dealing with that. It's not fun.
And for those who were shooting manual, toward the end of the session, how many of the photographs at the end were actually in focus?
Oh, for the mezcal experience? That's how they start their day at 5 a.m. They start with mezcal.
No, what, the cornflakes?
I'm like, whoa.
How are these people operating?
And, they're such hard workers. Everything they lift, like the portion of that plant that they have to throw over the fire is like 50 pounds. Yeah. And they lift it over their head and throw it and all day. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to look up. Hang on a minute. Can mezcal give you a hangover? The answer is yes. So they're having it on their cornflakes in the morning. I'm slightly worried. Right, come on, let's look at a couple of pictures. I'm glad you had a brilliant time, and you'll be doing that again next year.
Yes, so I want the same experiences and more, and I can't wait to go back myself.
Fabulous. What month are you doing that in? Do you know yet?
It's end of February.
End of February. All right. Yeah. Okay, I'm just wondering whether to sign myself up. I need to go and be on a mountain somewhere near nowhere else. It's a funny old world. Right, let's look at this one first of all from CK Hicks. Now, I know these are going to be on the show page, so if you send pictures in for Teach Me Street, then these pictures will be on the show page. We do now need new photos. Send your best street photos you have to stories@photowalk.show. Ideally 2, but 3-ish is okay. And then Valerie looks at them each month and we talk about them, do some critique, and away you go. Now, I'm going to start. Do you mind if I start on this one first?
Go right ahead.
I know CK Hicks. He's a super photographer, and I've seen a lot of his work. This is very busy for him. It's a very, very busy shot. It's in colour, which I'm not sure helps you distinguish what's going on better, or for better, for worse, I don't know. So this is a photograph I'm not used to seeing from him. So
it looks like it's just a bunch of food trucks along busy streets, and cars and trucks driving by in between those rows of food trucks, and then people walking by. And it's so busy, and to me there is no clear story, because that's the first thing I want to say. Okay, is it about light? No. There is no like shaft of light illuminating one person and then a foreground person and in silhouette, for example, where you'd have layers. I mean, there are definitely layers, but I don't see, okay, which is the subject? Probably the one guy in the middle that's standing out from the in front of that white truck, but that's the one thing that's missing. There is really, to me, no story. It's too busy. My eyes just don't know where to go.
You want to close in a bit.
Yeah, so absolutely. But in situations like that, when you have dappled light and so much going on, you can definitely make a photograph, but you're going to have to really watch where the light hits. For example, if all those people were in the shadow, and we worked on that quite a bit in Oaxaca, since we didn't see a cloud in the sky for a week. We had to work with harsh lights, dappled light under in some parks and everything, or with the light in streets, and we can make really great photographs working with difficult light, but you're going to need layers with the light hitting an interesting subject and so forth. So here I think it's too random. That's the word I was looking for.
Random.
It's too random to me.
There's the white van in the background. I've just run a workshop in India, and I went on a workshop actually in Bangladesh with the wonderfully talented GMB Akash. And one thing that he pointed out, and it's blooming hard actually in Bangladesh because everybody drives white cars, is that white vehicles or white stuff in the background you have to be a little bit cautious about because your eye gets sucked straight into that hot spot.
Yeah.
It's a difficult colour, white, if it is indeed a colour. It's a difficult tone, rather.
Yeah. So here I think there would have been some potential in spite of the busyness, but when you have so much, like the food truck must be, part of the story, but then it's just still too busy and you need really a strong subject to stand out.
Well, I tell you what, CK, I think I'd have liked to have been with you with all those food trucks.
The food truck.
That's for sure. Right, this next one is from Connor Gowles. Now, Connor's got 3 pictures. I'd like to concentrate on just a couple, if I may.
Okay.
The first one, I like a good reflection, but I'm not sure as to whether this is street or not, but it is intriguing.
It's traffic.
It's traffic. It's also a bit sad because the first car I ever owned in my whole life was a proper traditional VW Beetle. And here's one that's obviously had what you would call a fender bender. And it's just shoved to one side. And the scene is seen through the mirror. So I like the storytelling. I do like that. In terms of street, it's a little bit left field of street.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are people in the cars, although we don't really see people. It's more urban, in my opinion. But so let's say, okay, there are people, so it qualifies. I like the idea of the mirror shot. Actually, I had one participant in Oaxaca who just did so many amazing shots using, rearview mirrors.
Yes.
And here, it looks like the photographer was actually probably stuck in traffic and took that opportunity to make a shot of what was happening behind him or her, because it's obvious that these cars are not parked. They're on an exit ramp. So it's actually a shot taken while being stuck in traffic, I assume. So just that's kind of a feat in itself to do that and capture the moment. It's a frame in a frame, and as far as shooting in a rearview mirror, yes, I mean it's a valid photograph. I'm not sure I would photograph an accident, but and show it as street photography. But
I'm presuming they're okay. But frames in frames are things that you talk about. Actually, I remember you talking about frames within frames in Paris.
Yeah, and it's always good to shake things up a little bit and try different ways of seeing. And I actually like here that we see, so there was obvious, it's shot through a window because you see the drops in the window. So there was a little bit of rain, it looks like. And so I like all that in there, the imperfection that make it more authentic and interesting. So yeah, as far as shooting a reflection through a rearview mirror, I think the technique worked.
Well, get well soon, VW Beetle, is all I can say.
I'm not sure.
I hope you'll be well soon. The last one is of the child reaching for the skies, reaching for the gulls that are flying by, and I like that. I like
this much better.
There's a pelican in there as well, which is one of my faves. When the first pelican. The first pelican that we saw in the wilds with my kids was actually in Australia, and they were standing by a table where the fishermen were gutting the fish, and they were occasionally coming in and clattering those bills, and the fishermen would jump away each time because they could be quite ferocious. But anyway, it's not really about the pelican. It's nice that the pelly's in there, but this is a scene next to the sea, a child reaching out for the gulls that are flying by. It's black and white, and I quite like the fact that the gulls on the beach on the floor are looking up at the child as well. So there's a little bit of eye contact going on here. Maybe they're waiting for food,
probably, and he may have thrown some food.
Yes,
And I love birds and flights, and including that in your street photography, whether you're at the beach or, again, street photography, the street is optional.
Yep.
People need to be there, however, so this would qualify. It's a moment of everyday life, and the action of the child just reaching and maybe after throwing some crumbs in the sky. So it's actually, I think it lacks a little bit of contrast. I would make that a little bit more contrasty. It's a little blown out to me, but it looks like it was a slow shutter speed because you see a lot of movement in the birds in flight, which I also like. It's something that it's fun to play with, whether you're working with pigeons on the streets or seagulls at the beach, to include birds in flight in your shot, and that requires a little bit of work. You have to get the birds to be in flight at a certain time when there is somebody interesting walking by or something. So I've had some interesting shots with that, and I always look for that. So I like that. I like that we have the birds in motion, and then the moment of the action of the child reaching for the sky. So I think this is a stronger photograph than the previous one.
Well, thank you, CK, and thank you, Connor, for these. In terms of the birds, in India, well, you know Mercedes. Mercedes was on the Paris course. So Mercedes was with us in India. And how do you feel? You like things to happen naturally. And it was one of the last days, I think Mercedes had got fed up of waiting for birds to do what they should do and just come into focus. Or maybe it was my impatience, I can't quite remember. There was a guy sort of in a meditational kind of pose. I wish I had the photograph to show you, but sitting on the edge of an outpost or out whatever, looking out into the river. And just below, just out of reach, was a load of pigeons. And she said, just pop down there, will you, and do a clap and send them in my direction. And I thought, are you supposed to do this? Has Valerie told you this is okay? I said, well,
we just did that. Didn't walk.
Well, there we go then. You're right, because I said you're on my workshop. We can clap as much as we like.
we can't tell the people to do anything for us, but the birds, I think we can do that.
Okay, that's all right then. Well, look, thank you very much. We need some pictures.
Thank you.
Send them in to stories@photowalk.show, and Valerie will review them, and you'll get a free ebook of your choice. So thank you, Valerie.
Well, thank you. I may actually, I listened to one of your shows recently, and I may start a blog again. I used to blog all the time. But
that would be David Duchemin talking about the power of blogging.
Oh, yes, that was David. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know David, I think, don't you?
I know David, yeah. And he's always good ideas, and I love listening to him. And so I'm actually thinking of a blog, like... I may call it moments or something like that, and just write visual stories like I do for my ebooks, but do it for just one picture regularly. So I'm playing with the idea of restarting a blog. Yeah.
Well, you inspire me, and I've now inspired you, or rather through David.
Through David.
So there we go.
It's a really good episode. I really encourage everyone to go and listen to it. It was just recently, right?
Yeah, it was only a couple.
Just drove down to Chicago and back in a weekend, so listened to a lot of the podcasts.
The episode wasn't that long.
No, but I had to catch up on a lot of them. So thank you for that.
And my thanks to Valerie Jardin for Teach Me Street. So, for over a year, we've been featuring your pictures, and Valerie has been giving you feedback and review. But those two males that you heard there, they're the very last. So now is the time to send your pictures in for review. Let's start a new set. Send to stories@photowalk.show. Stories@photowalk.show. 2,500 pixels on the long side. No, wide. Sorry, 2,500 pixels wide. And we shall include yours in the next Teach Me Street with Valerie Jardin. It's the photo walk of a Friday, and Letters Week. And still the letter that really inspired the title to the show today is to come. That's the last letter in the show today. Now, I've had this letter, this tangible letter, this hold it in your hands letter that arrived in the post for too long now. So first up, a big apology to Dennis Linden for that. It's been on my letters what I must use soon pile. which has grown a bit, so I'm redressing that today, and I'm making sure we read this. Dear Neil, disappointment. Not perhaps the best way to start a letter. What have I done, Dennis? Disappointment. It can take many forms. For example, my father didn't fly in the famous Lancaster aircraft. Where's this going? You see, I grew up with the knowledge, certain, that my father, who died when I was just 6, was an engineer on the famous Lancaster bomber. The story as woven was that during the early days of September 1939, his squadron, based in Poland, packed up and relocated to England. As a mechanical engineer, he would sit where the co-pilot usually sat, and he'd be on these dangerous, overnight, swashbuckling missions. It was something that clearly weighed heavy, as this, I was told, was the reason he refused to ever get on an aeroplane again, or take a job with Boeing, and why my parents took the train vast distances in America visiting relatives instead of flying. Now, one wrinkle in his story, as told to me by Mum, is that one of the few recollections of my father is based upon seeing photographs from the Second World War. Many had handwriting on the back indicating the location and who the people were, but some are blank. Hold that thought, because none of them had anything to do with the fabled Lancaster. You see, in each and every photograph he was in front of a Spitfire. That wouldn't be a Spitfire flying above us now, would it? No, that's not the famous Merlin engine. Blimey, that would have been coincidence. Usually, you know me, out on my walk saying, oh, no, helicopters, aeroplanes. Can't we just hear, I know, I know. Can't we, I'm agreeing with you. And you, shush, you're as bad as the Would you let me finish the sentence? Thank you. You see, he wasn't in front of a Lancaster at all. He was in front of a Spitfire. And I know he wasn't a pilot. I recently obtained his military records, actually, and it turns out that he was, in fact, a sergeant in the Polish Air Force and was actually an engine fitter who worked almost exclusively on the Spitfire engines. Unfortunately, after 50 years of repeating a truth that I believed, I had to face reality, which was somewhat different, only more true. I suppose I could have gone down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. I mean, perhaps he was a secret agent whose military records were altered to cover up his covert activities. I mean, why else would I have a photograph of him in a meeting with the Duke of Kent, with the Polish Prime Minister in exile, all in one place? But I think now that the truth is what it is, really, in reality. As Freddie Mercury once asked, is this the real world or just fantasy? So holding with that thought, I began a project to learn more with the scanning of old photographs and scoured the pictures for recognizable faces of his companions, documenting his activities in the war. But I'm somewhat overwhelmed, really, and his handwritten notes are illegible. What I've managed to find have become small postcards now. And as a result, and not wishing to leave gaps in my own story, I've started a new project where I'll combine significant personal pictures and make new postcards, which I'm going to mail out to all the participants from my life, those in the pictures and also my family, so that when I pass, oh, Dennis, don't say that. There's a physical record, and data on a hard drive or Apple Photos isn't the only place of keeping. Now, I'd originally handwritten this letter to you, Neil, but changed as I went along to dictation. As you recall, my right hand has been damaged as a result of the surgery, and my handwriting is disastrous. By dictating, I can include excellent grammatical errors. I put much more into the litter. I can see, Dennis, your humour has not left the building. And thank you for the small postcard examples that you sent through following this. I love, by the way, There we go, there's that plane. No, you're not a Spitfire, so don't do it now. We were thinking you were timely. But now you're just noisy. So yeah, Dennis, thank you for the small postcard examples you sent through. I love, by the way, alongside the family record stuff, that you're also compiling, you're putting in there, and this is good for the family, your street work. Definitely better, as you say, than entrusting our lives to a hard drive or the cloud. It always happens when we come up here that Barney ends up rubbing himself in just about anything he can find. Oh, you're so grim. What you don't know, by the way, is this afternoon at 2 o'clock, you're going to Marie. Who is Marie, you might ask? I'll tell you. The dog groomer. A dog groomer, Neil? God, dear. Really? Yes. He's that kind of breed that has dog grooming. And he doesn't much like Marie. He doesn't much like grooming, to be honest. Marie's absolutely lovely with him, but come on, we're going this way. No, this way. See, there's 2 cafes on the airbase. One is straight on, the other one is right. And now he's going to have a proper word with me. We're going this way. No, we're not. You can make as much noise as you like. No, don't do that to the back of my leg. Keith would have something to say about this. Honestly. Here's a very short, to the point one, which I love, from Tom Cavness. You definitely need the show page today to understand or to see this one. Have I made that point clear enough today? I think I probably have. It's a square picture, which is it's a lovely scene, actually. Is it a still life? It is, isn't it? It's a still life. Is it a documentary scene or a still life? A still life, I think. Talk amongst yourselves. It's a warm-toned, beautiful collodion image of a hat with 2 skulls sitting in the brim. And they belong to, well, you're about to find out what they belong to. Hi, Neil, says Tom. You said you like a good haiku, so here's one I created to go along with one of my wet plate collodion images. It's beautiful work, isn't it, wet plate collodion? It is something that perhaps, and we've spoken to some photographers that work with wet plate collodion. I'll get it right in a minute. Wet plate collodion. Say that. It's a tongue twister. Say it 6 times. Can you say it, pups? We know Jack. Captain Mannering, Captain Mannering's grandson. Who played Captain Mannering? Oh, now I'm embarrassed. Jack. You know Jack. Oh. Anyway, he makes for the lifeboat station project. Oh God, I'm tying myself in knots here, aren't I? Don't tell him, will you, please? But he made those beautiful images of the lifeboat stations in that project around the UK and parts of Ireland. That was fantastic work. Yeah. So anyway, before I tied myself up in knots. Hi, Neil, says Tom. We'll start again. You said you like a good haiku, so here's one I created to go along with one of my wet plate collodion images. Haiku, by the way, is a form of... we're going past a factory unit, which is probably why you can hear slight rumbling, is a form of Japanese poetry with it's a pretty specific structure, really, to it. There's 3 lines... And the syllables within the poetry is important. There's a pattern of 5, 7, and then 5 again. We've done some stuff like this. I think we did some haiku on one of the Scottish retreats. Pretty sure somebody did some. But so here's the haiku that Tom has written to go with his image. And you'll understand where the skulls come from in a second. I love this kind of creativity. I can see this sitting below the plate in an exhibition. 3 sat together, a cat, a rat, an old hat. Life over for two. Tom, thank you. Love that. I actually did a bit more reading about haiku, the Japanese form of poetry. That bit I knew. 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7. 7, then 5 again, as I said. 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7, then 5 again. Yes, that's it. It's been around for centuries. I did not realise since the 17th. And I hope I've got the name right. Matsuo Basho wrote, well, a very famous one about a frog jumping into a pond. I had no idea it was the most translated poem in human history. See, I would have probably guessed with my very basic poetry knowledge that it would have been something by Keats or Byron, but no, it's the following one about a frog. This is it. An old silent pond. A frog jumps into the pond. Splash. Silence again. There we go. That's the world's most famous poem. I would never have believed that if I'd have just read it and had no prior knowledge to it. Stay away, pups. There's a runner. Hello, afternoon. I still think it must look strange as I walk along talking into this microphone. What's he doing? I do feel I should hand out apology cards. But there's a whole movement of haiku, apparently. Note to pop some some links in the show notes today. And there's also a video that I want to put in the video part of the show page as well. And you can go to haiku evenings and events, which would be a bit strange, wouldn't it? Because these are such short poems that I don't know whether you'd have a conveyor belt of, what would you call them, haikuists? I don't know, or whether one person would come up and read about 100 haikus. There'd be a slight rhythm to that, wouldn't there? That would be a bit meditational. Beautiful, meditational, I think that would be. But thank you very much for sending that haiku in, and I'll put your picture on the show page today. Jack Lowe. Yeah, I was walking along thinking, I can't just leave it like that. Jack Lowe. You must look up his work. In fact, another note to self, let's put a link on the show page. Let's do that, Neil. Now, talking of observations in sort of still life, very particular observations with a camera. This week's Extra Mile, which is the show that goes only on Patreon, that supports this show, this work, this week features a photographer, an extra miler called Michael Assman. Now, we had our monthly Zoom meetup earlier this week for those that are members of our Patreon, our extra milers, where we share pictures that we've been working on of late. And Michael popped up 3 fantastic photographs, which were ones he'd made of empty rooms. Now, I suppose when you first say empty room pictures, you might think, oh, right. But these, honestly, when you've been to photographic galleries and seen these wonderful pictures made of room spaces, which are a lot more complicated to make than you think, actually, this instantly, when I saw the very first of the 3 that he showed, just reminded me of that sublime work that you might find in places like that. And these were empty rooms that belonged to his late father-in-law in his house. And he made these amazing pictures to preserve the memory of this place, really, and I suppose his father-in-law. And they reminded me it was kind of melancholic moment for me, because I didn't make pictures of the empty rooms in my mum and dad's house and then my mum's house, which were really fascinating spaces for all sorts of reasons. Now, when the house clearance had happened and there were still a few objects left, that was the moment to make these pictures like what Michael has done. And it seems such a simple idea, doesn't it, to preserve legacy? And we've talked about legacy a bit, haven't we now? Of places that we grew up in or around. or know well. But it's just such a wonderful idea. It makes me think I need to make sure I photograph what you might call the banal of life, because it's anything but, isn't it? Here's a few moments from the Extra Mile where I talked to Michael about his, I suppose, pop-up photography project.
On this week's Extra Mile.
Why pictures of 3 rooms with absolutely nobody in them?
Yeah, actually those are pictures of the room that my father-in-law used as his office space.
Right.
And actually one of them was also used as a family space where we had dinners in family, but unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. Those rooms have been left untouched for some time. It's a large house. It's a building from 1908. That's when it was built, and then there was an extension in the 50s. So this is how they look like. And you could imagine them a few weeks ago still with lots of bookshelves all around the walls and images, pictures hanging there, souvenirs from all over the world. And right now we are in the process of converting them because my brother-in-law basically will move in with his family into the space.
Okay, so the house is not being sold as such. It's going to.
No.
It stays within the family. But it feels like you wanted to document the memory of how it was before it becomes what it will be.
Yeah, actually it is this moment of converting something, and you see that transition already because especially the people who knew the rooms before, right? The family, and that was the primary objective, actually, to create a memory for of those rooms for everybody who knew them. They were not meant for the world, but for me they are showing something that is in transition because a lot of stuff has moved out already, and it's not gonna be many weeks, and those rooms will look very, very different.
They look very different. So it's all about the legacy of things. Think about the things around us, the things our loved ones held dear, the spaces that one day yield to somebody else or another family. A different life. I love this idea of bottling these places photographically. I really do. So, Michael, thank you for the amazing pictures you shared the other night in our Zoom call, and the metaphorical kick up the whatsits you provided to make sure we document what may sometimes or to some people may seem just like an empty room or something similar, but is actually a time capsule. And a very important one that in our lives. And I'm looking forward to spending time with you on the Scottish Photography Workshop this year. Now, if you are not a member of the Extra Mile, like what Michael is, it's very much the lifeblood of this show. Without it, there simply, and I mean this, would be no show. And because this production takes so much time, that modest army of supporters is so important. It really is. I can't thank you all enough, or if I could, I would. I'd pop round, have a cup of tea with every single one of you. Membership really does start for just the price of a medium cup of cappuccino with free cioccolato sprinkles. So he says with an Oliver Twist hat unashamedly outstretched, please sir, can you forego one of those a month to keep us walking together? Look into these eyes now, look. Go on. They're a bit bloodshot, Neil. No, well, it was a late night last night, but go on. Go to photowalk.show, hit the support the show button in the top right-hand corner, and you will have access to hundreds of extra miles walked together and be able to join us in the monthly Zoom. All right, last letter time. We do need that jingle, don't we? Last letter time. Is anybody musical out there? We've got some fantastic creatives in our community. Somebody sing us a last letter jingle. Come on, pups, this way. So yeah, within this, the title of the show will make perfect sense. So it's a thoughtful one, this letter, which deserves a thoughtful, wistful number as our play-out song, with which to walk a little bit further and think about what's been said today. And I've chosen something that, I'm going to be a bit poetic now, stand by, that dances and twists with such beautiful, hypnotic tones. And they belong to Georgia Day. The song is by Lance Conrad, and it's called Our Way Back Home. Hold on a minute. There we go. Camera had become tangled up in me camera strap. I'm going to do my thank yous now because as I read the letter or photo essay, actually, that's to come, you'll understand why I want that to dovetail beautifully with the music. So, a nod to Neil Ford for stopping the IT from taking its own pilgrimage to far-off lands. A nod in itself, actually, to the Indian special coming shortly. Andrea Gilpin keeps an eye on Instagram. Kelly Mitchell, the same for Facebook. Kelvin Brown's in charge of Flickr. And Michael Brennan gathers the music onto a Spotify playlist so you can hear what we play. Now, usually we have a postscript to the show, something pithy that roughly follows the line of what we've been talking about. But I think what you're about to hear can serve beautifully well as the postscript, albeit a long one. It's a letter from Monika Adler. Hello, team. See, it's teamwork, this. Monika's recognised that. My recent photographic project, called Chalk Stone White, was created during Photowalks around the Seven Sisters Cliffs, and it focuses on visual storytelling, exploring moments, places, and personal narratives through a documentary and poetic lens. Ooh, like that. Now, before I read this beautiful essay, just in case you don't know what the Seven Sisters is, my other listeners put their hand up. No, it's not the tube station. Well, it is. There's one called Seven Sisters in North London, but not that one, no. The one I'm talking about are the Seven Sisters, or Monika's referring to, are the Seven Sisters, the seven chalk cliffs on the south coast of England that step down into the English Channel alongside or along the East Sussex coast. And if you've never stood atop them looking out over the water, can I say, put that one on the list. Anyway, here are some beautiful words from Monika to close the show, and I invite you to go and look at the pictures that go with this on the show page today. For me, says Monika, walking and photography are inseparable. They are two practices that amplify one another, acting like the left and right hands of the same creative impulse. In my photo series, Chalk Stone White, the landscape becomes both subject and collaborator. The physical act of moving through the world shapes the images as much as the camera itself. I'm drawn to the places where land and memory intersect, where every path feels like a palimpsest of histories, visible only if you walk long enough and look deep enough. I think that must, Monika, be the first time we've used palimpsest on this show. There must be an award for that. What I enjoy photographing most are landscapes that carry stories, she says. Not just pretty vistas, but terrains that have been lived in, contested, and reshaped. In this series, my series, I documented salt marshes, worn tarmac, floodplains, quagmires of mud, places marked by both human intervention and natural resilience. Black crows impale insects in the grass, abandoned fields that whisper of generations past. These aren't conventional landscapes, but they are rich with texture, sedimented time, and fractured beauty. Oh, I'll tell you what, Monika, when I grow up, I want to write like you. Photo walking has taught me to slow down, she says. In the rush of daily life, especially in cities like London or Paris, where I've lived and worked, it's easy to overlook the subtle interplay of light and shadow, the curve of a river reconfigured by centuries of use, or the salt in the air on a foggy beach at the Seven Sisters. The physical rhythm of walking aligns with my photographic rhythm. Each step is a breath, and each breath is an opportunity to see something unexpected. Over the years, I've had wonderful and strange moments that have shaped how I make pictures. On one walk, I found myself standing on a beachhead where remnants of shipwrecks pierce the water, where mercury and sodium nitrate leak silently into the sea. Industrial ghosts, more telling than any human figure. In the eerie quiet, the air full of centuries of salt and stories, I felt both the weight of history and the thrill of being present with it. Making photographs has changed my life profoundly. It's taught me patience, curiosity, and reverence for what lies beneath the observable surface. I learned early that reality is negotiable, shaped as much by emotion and memory as by what the eye registers. Photography became a way of navigating that negotiation, a tool for empathy, reflection, and deep engagement with the world. There's a peculiar joy in the synthesis of walking and photography, a joy that comes from movement, discovery, and the serendipity of encounter. Walking opens me up to the poetry of place. The photography allows me to articulate that poetry, to hold it long enough to share it. On my walks through landscapes that have been walked, worked, and weathered, I've found paths not only across terrain, but into deeper ways of seeing and feeling. In chalk stone white, every image is a step, and every step a meditation on time, loss, and connection.
Deep in the hollow dark of the night, we hold on to hope, we search for the light. Lost in the echoes, led by the stars, we trust in ourselves, we listen our hearts. We'll find our way back home. We'll find our way back home, back home. Back home, back home. We'll never waver, we carry on through mountains and valleys. We'll see the dawn, tested again, surviving the day. We keep on believing we'll find a way. Deep in the hollow of the dark, we search for the light. Lost in the echoes, we walk through the fire. We'll find our way back home. We'll find our way back home, back home. Back home, back home. We'll find our way back home.
The Photowalk is a Loading Zone production.